Welcome to another Less Than 10 character guide, where we cover everything you need to know about a character in less than 10 minutes. I'll cover all the skills, weapons, artifact builds, and team ideas without wasting any of your time. With all that being said, my name's Balthier. Now let's get into Kinich in less than 10. As always, starting with Kinich's Ascension stat, Kinich will be gaining crit damage as you level him up, reaching a total of 38.4% by max level. Moving on to his normal attacks, Kinich has a 3-hit combo with some pretty unique animations, including his charge attack where he throws out his claymore as it spins, being the first of its kind. However, these attacks generally don't matter for his kit, as most of his damage output is considered elemental skill damage. That being said, let's talk about his elemental skill, Canopy Hunter Riding High. This ability, like all Natlan characters, has a purpose for exploration as well as combat. Starting with its exploration purposes, Kinich can fire out a grappling shot projecting himself through the sky. In Natlan, he can perform this up to 2 times before landing. While you aim the second shot, Kinich can stay suspended in the air to aim the second shot. Not only this, anything a Yumkasaur can do, Kinich can do as well, meaning he can pick up blast flowers and hook shot to coilgrass sigils located in Natlan, making it unnecessary to have to go hunt down a Yumkasaur. Now, as far as combat goes, when activating Canopy Hunter Riding High in combat, Kinich will tether himself to an enemy target lasting for 10 seconds. During these 10 seconds, Kinich can slide around the target, firing off loop shots using the normal attack button. Loop shots will deal elemental skill damage, so keep that in mind. While firing off these shots, Kinich will build up Night Soul points. When he reaches maximum Night Soul points, you can reactivate the elemental skill button to fire off a scale spiker cannon, consuming all your Night Soul points. You can hold to aim the shot, which allows you to swap your tethered target for more control. Additionally, another way to gain Night Soul points faster is by sliding through the highlighted zones called blind spots. These spots will pop up whenever you grapple an enemy or fire off Scale Spiker Cannon. So you should aim to slide through these after every Scale Spiker Cannon you activate for maximum damage output. Next up, we have Kinich's Elemental Burst, Hail the Almighty Dragon Lord. When activating Elemental Burst, Kinich will let loose the Almighty Dragon Lord, who will release bursts of AoE Dendro damage in intervals lasting for 15 seconds. If activated in Night Soul's Blessing, the duration is extended by 1.7 seconds. Since Kinich isn't really burst reliant, don't worry about having enough energy recharge to maintain full uptime, and try to activate it at the end of his rotation so it's up while you're rotating through the rest of your team. With all of his active abilities out of the way, let's look into his passives, starting with his A1 passive, the Price of Desolation. Utilizing this passive, you can gain even more Night Soul points during his elemental skill. When the target is affected by Burning or Burgeon, gain 7 additional points when dealing damage with Kinich's elemental skill. This passive is why Burning and Burgeon teams are Kinich's mainstay. As with Perfect Execution, you can get up to 5 Scale Spiker Cannons activated. However, because of the nature of his blind spot mechanic, you're more likely to get 4 shots off, but 5 is still possible. Then lastly, we have his A4 passive, Flame Spirit Pact. This passive will give 1 stack every time a party member triggers Night Soul Burst, lasting for 15 seconds. You can gain a maximum of 2 stacks, and each stack will increase the damage of your next Scale Spiker Cannon by 320%. However, reaching maximum stacks requires more Natlan characters in the party, and at the moment there are no Natlan characters that synergize well with Kinich. As for talent priority, go skill then burst, as most of Kinich's damage is from his skill and very little is from his burst. As for normal attacks, you can ignore them entirely. They do not affect the damage of your loop shots at all. Alright, now that we have a good idea of how to operate Kinich, let's look at his options for weapons and artifacts. Alright, we're going to start off with weapons, then move on to artifact stats and builds. Starting with Kinich's signature weapon, Fang of the Mountain King. Fang of the Mountain King, just like every signature weapon, is tailor-made for Kinich. This weapon is actually insane. It has a very modest 11% crit rate, but that's easy to cover up with the Obsidian Codex set. However, the base attack is 741, which is the highest base attack on a weapon in the game. Not only that, when you activate your elemental skill, it'll give you 1 stack of Canopy's Favor. And it can trigger every 0.5 seconds, meaning Kinich will fill this up ridiculously fast. Max stacks is 6, and each stack increases elemental skill and elemental burst damage by 10%. Furthermore, every 2 seconds, if you trigger a burn or burgeon in your team, which you should be, it will grant 3 stacks as well, and this can occur when off the field, basically making sure the buff is maintained by the time you get back to Kinich. However, if you haven't had a chance to pick this up, don't worry, he has a lot of good alternatives. Starting with a couple 5-star alternatives, let's look at Beacon of the Reed Sea. Honestly, this weapon is a good pick on most characters, and this includes Kinich. However, with the 33.1% crit rate, we're going to want to be careful not to overcap our crit rate. Aside from that, given its effect increases attack when we hit with an elemental skill, this goes great with Kinich, since all we do is hit with elemental skill. Additionally, the other attack buff from taking damage is decent as well, because it's pretty hard to avoid damage as Kinich while in the Night Soul's Blessing state. Then we have Old Faithful, Wolf's Gravestone. It's really hard to go wrong with Wolf's Gravestone. As long as you scale with attack, it's a good option. Not only does it have 608 base attack, but it gives 69.6% attack overall at R1. It also gives a big buff of attack to your whole party when attacking something below 30%. Now, some of Kinich's teams, this buff is useless, but on the other hand, teams that can utilize it are some of his best teams. This being said, he has a lot of good 5-star options. These are just a few that stand out. Mostly you're just looking for any kind of attack buff, crit stats, or damage buff based on elemental skill. I say this now because his 4-star options are pretty limited. Luckily, one of them is extremely competitive with his 5-star options, and we get it for free. That being the Earthshaker. This weapon is the newest 4-star craftable claymore, and we get one for free, so long as you check out the ongoing web event. But even if you miss that, save out some billets and craft this all the way up to R5. This weapon at max refinements can keep up to even Wolf's Gravestone, giving us 16 to 32% elemental skill damage bonus depending on refinements. However, if you do miss out on this guy, there is one other decent 4-star option, Tidal Shadow. However, it's also a craftable, but from Fontaine. It gives a pretty solid 41.3% attack for a substat, and it increases attack even further after being healed. So if you're using Bennett or Baiju, it can do its job. 4-star weapons are very limited for him, so I recommend picking up the free Earthshaker and farming up refinements. As for his artifact stats and sets, Kinich is going to want attack percent Sands, Dendro damage Goblet, and crit rate or crit damage on his crown, depending on what you need more of. As for sets, he's going to want Obsidian Codex for most teams for that 40% crit rate, which means you'll most likely want a crit damage crown. This is also where we want to be careful if using Beacon of the Reed Sea. Now, if you don't have a good Obsidian Codex set yet, you could opt for Unfinished Reverie in the meantime, as long as you're running Burn in your team. As for substats, go with crit stats, then attack percent, then maybe energy recharge. Mostly, Kinich just wants attack and crit overall. Alright, now that we have Kinich all built up, let's quickly look at a few team ideas. Alright, so as far as teams go for Kinich, you want to primary focus on Burn or Burgeon. He is strong enough that you can slot him into other teams, but his full potential lies in Pyro Dendro teams. Let's start off with the most popular and easier choice, Kinich Burn. In this team, you're going to want to run Kinich alongside 2 Pyro characters and an additional Dendro character. So let's look at Kinich, Xiangling, Bennett, and Nahida. With this team, Nahida will not only do more damage with her Trikarma Purification because of the double Pyro, but Kinich will get even more attack percent from the Pyro Resonance as well. Then combined with Bennett's attack buff and Xiangling's Pyronado, you should be doing a ton of damage. Your main goal with this team is going to be hitting those blind spots and trying your hardest to land 5 total Scale Spike or Cannon shots. However, if you have Emily, you could replace Nahida and make this team even better, since Emily also wants to profit off of burning. This is also the team where Wolf's Gravestone's attack buff can really benefit Emily's DPS as well. You could replace Xiangling with Dia, but I don't recommend it. However, if you do want to pair Dia and Kinich up, then look no further than Kinich Burgeon. So my choice on this team is Kinich, Farina, Bennett, and Dia. With this team, I put as much energy recharge as I can on Bennett, so his attack buff is always available. Then I run Dia with Deepwood Memories and Elemental Mastery. I find with this team it's a bit harder to get 4 or 5 Scale Spike or Cannon shots off. However, with Farina's massive damage buff, Bennett's attack buff, and Deepwood's Dendro Shred, I find my Kinich is hitting incredibly hard himself. This team is a little more clunky to use, but when done right, it's a lot of fun. You could also replace Farina with Yelan or Xingqiu, and Dia can be replaced by Toma. As you can see at the moment, Kinich really wants a Bennett on the team since his attack buff is insane. Not only that, he's usually paired with an additional Pyro for better application, giving more attack through Pyro Resonance. However, if Pyro isn't your thing, have no fear, you can still run Kinich. Just at far less of his overall potential, though that doesn't mean this team is bad in any way, that being Hyperbloom. Kinich being paired up with Yelan, Raiden, and Nahida can still be crazy since Hyperbloom is so strong. As the Dendro driver, Kinich can utilize Yelan to make quite a few blooms, and then with Elemental Mastery of Raiden, she can trigger them from a distance. Nahida is just here for the additional Dendro application and to utilize Deepwood Memories. All 3 of these characters have a cheaper replacement as well, being Xingqiu, Kuki, and Dendro Traveler. Overall, not a bad team if you don't like Pyro. However, it is pretty clear Kinich is meant to be placed with Pyro, and it's almost guaranteed that Mavuika as the Pyro Archon is going to be insane with Kinich. Only time will tell. If this guide helped you out in any way, please make sure to hit the like button and to force the subscribe button to bow down to the almighty Dragon Lord. And if you plan on using Kinich with Nahida, click on the top left video for a less than 10 character guide featuring Nahida. Other than that, this was everything you need to know about Kinich in less than 10. I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time.